in the endless expanse of the cosmos. Humanity has always yearned to explore the unknown. But what draws us to these distant worlds? Why do we root for those who venture into the void, facing unimaginable dangers? It's not just about the thrill of discovery. It's something deeper, something primal, a yearning for answers, for purpose, for survival. In the heart of every great hero's journey lies a truth we all share: the desire to confront the unknown, to rise against the shadows, and to find meaning in a universe far beyond our reach. In the depths of human imagination, there exists a yearning, an urge to explore the unknown, to venture into realms far beyond our own. It begins not with logic, but with a feeling, a sense of wonder. What is it that draws us to these distant worlds? Why do we root for those who leave the safety of home and face the impossible? The answer lies beneath the surface, buried deep within the recesses of our minds. The answer, as it turns out, is simple and terrifying. Picture this: humans, huddled around glowing screens, giddy with excitement, watching as they blast into space in shoddy spacecraft held together by duct tape and prayers. There's always that one guy with bad hair and even worse aim who somehow still gets a heroic role. Why? Because deep down, we love the underdog. We love watching someone stumble, fumble, and somehow survive against all odds. Enter Dr. Elara Voss, our unlikely hero, or more accurately, the only one still standing after all the others had conveniently vanished. Dr. Voss was your typical space scientist, decked out in a lab coat and a perpetual look of mild confusion. She had spent her career chasing shadows in the void, scraping together funding from organizations that believed space exploration was just glorified stargazing. They were wrong. One day, while bored out of her mind, Elara caught a signal. Not a faint blip of background noise, but something that didn't fit the usual space banter. It wasn't just static. It was smart static. It came from Kepler 16b, a planet with 2 suns and just enough charm to be completely unsuitable for humans. Elara could have ignored it, as everyone else had, but something was nagging at her, like an itch only curiosity could scratch. As days turned into weeks, the signal grew clearer, but also more menacing. Elara studied it with the intensity of someone who had too much time and no social life. She started deciphering patterns, her once dull research papers now resembling frantic scribbles on the margins of a detective novel. The message was simple: we are here. That was it. No "hi, welcome to space," no friendly ETs looking for tea and biscuits, and just "we are here." Now this is where things got weird. The signal wasn't broadcasting from Kepler 16b, as one might expect. Oh no, it was coming from deep space. The void beyond their reach, beyond even their wildest calculations. It wasn't so much a signal as a cosmic wake-up call. And Dr. Voss, for all her intelligence, began to feel like she was holding a lit match at the edge of a gas leak. Despite the skepticism from her colleagues, who casually dismissed the signal as background noise and went back to their paperwork like Elara wasn't uncovering what could be the greatest discovery in human history, she couldn't shake the feeling. There was something out there, something ancient, something waiting. And as the scientist, she knew exactly what that meant. Trouble. But here's the kicker. What kind of signal does humanity want to send into the void? We're here, please don't eat us. Or maybe, please don't destroy us, we're mostly harmless. Yet, whatever the case, something had responded. And Elara wasn't sure whether to feel hopeful or utterly doomed. Either way, she couldn't unsee it. The signal had lodged itself in her mind, and there was no going back. to why did we root for heroes like Elara Voss? Because, deep down, we all want to believe that someone, some brave, terrified soul, will venture into the abyss, stumble upon danger, and somehow manage to survive long enough to tell the tale. If we didn't, what hope would we have? As the weeks turned into months, the signal continued to hum in the background, a constant reminder that something, or someone, was out there. Dr. Voss couldn't shake the feeling that they were no longer dealing with just a cosmic noise. It was intentional, purposeful. But what had once seemed like a hopeful breakthrough had now become a slow descent into uncertainty. Humanity had always been good at two things: sending out hopeful radio broadcasts into space and ignoring signals from far away. Dr. Voss found herself oscillating between excitement and dread, constantly plagued by the question, why now? What had triggered this response from the void? The silence that followed their attempts at communication had always been deafening, but this time, someone, or something, had responded. And yet, no one knew what to do with the response. Governments scrambled to coordinate a response, but bureaucracies had a way of doing absolutely nothing swiftly and efficiently. The world fell into a strange limbo between hope and panic, unsure of what to make of the increasingly mysterious signal. No one could deny the science behind it, but faith in government's ability to solve anything beyond traffic jams was shaky at best. Elara, now a reluctant figurehead, found herself at the center of what could only be described as the world's most bizarre press tour. Scientists, media, and conspiracy theorists alike descended upon her with questions ranging from, "Is this the end?" to, "Will we get to meet the aliens in person?" Elara, never a fan of public speaking or dealing with overly optimistic reporters who still believed in aliens giving us free Wi-Fi, wondered how she had become the reluctant captain of this cosmic sinking ship. Her colleagues, once dismissive of her findings, began circling like vultures, eager to cash in on what had become a global obsession. Suddenly, they weren't so quick to disregard Elara's theories. "Dr. Voss, have you thought about... what if it's a message of peace?" someone asked hopefully. Elara sighed. Peace? In space? The last time anyone suggested peace, humanity launched nuclear missiles and blamed each other. Space isn't exactly known for handing out kindness. The signal itself was maddeningly simple, a series of binary codes, patterns that seemed to suggest a level of intelligence far beyond anything humanity had encountered before. What did they want? Did they even want anything? Or were they just leaving an echo, like some cosmic Morse code, hoping someone out there could decode their presence? Elara had a growing suspicion they were dealing with something far beyond her understanding. But there was a growing unease beneath the surface of all this curiosity. The more they delved into the nature of the signal, the more it seemed like the answers they were looking for would only lead to more questions. Humanity had never been great at answering complex problems. Usually, they just created more of them. Elara found herself wondering if that's what they were doing now. One thing was certain: the signal wasn't just a call for help, it was a call for something far more dangerous. The ruins beneath Kepler 16b only added to the growing sense of foreboding. Ancient cities, buried beneath the surface of a planet seemingly untouched for millennia, hinted at a civilization that had thrived and vanished, leaving nothing but memories in the dust. What had happened to them? Had they been wiped out? Or had they simply vanished into the void? The thought haunted Elara. But the real question lingered. Was their discovery the beginning of a new chapter, or the last one? If the signal was a warning, then what could they possibly do to prepare? Humanity had always excelled at solving problems, assuming they were actually given a clear problem to solve. In this case, all they had was a mystery wrapped in a signal, and the sinking realization that they might never fully understand what they were dealing with. Elara couldn't ignore the feeling that something ancient had awoken, and they were its next target. Whether that target was her team, or humanity as a whole, no one knew. But one thing was certain: the signal had opened a door, and there was no going back. The signal had grown too loud to ignore. Governments, once dismissive of the unknown, were now frantically scrambling to coordinate a response. Endless meetings were held, each more redundant than the last. Elara, once a quiet scientist, became the face of humanity's last hope. And while she struggled to maintain composure, deep down, she knew this wasn't the end of a new beginning, this was the beginning of a very bad day. It wasn't just a signal anymore, it was a call to action. Every major space agency, government, and corporation launched into overdrive. Even the conspiracy theorists who once believed aliens were secretly running the stock market now believed aliens were about to appear in their living rooms. Everywhere Elara went, she was greeted by throngs of reporters, politicians, and experts who suddenly decided they were qualified to solve an intergalactic crisis. Dr. Voss said, one eager scientist, "Do you think this could be humanity's moment to rise? A chance to meet our cosmic neighbors?" Elara sighed. Or, maybe this could be humanity's last chance to avoid extinction. For every hopeful question, there were a dozen that spiraled into dystopian scenarios. Some believed this was an unprecedented opportunity for diplomacy. Others feared it was a cosmic death sentence waiting to happen. After all, what kind of message does the universe send if not one of either friendship or doom? As the months dragged on, the signal became more than just a curiosity, it became a rallying cry. Every nation, desperate to stake a claim on space exploration, scrambled to throw resources into new technologies. New spacecraft were rushed into production, and funding was funneled toward the most questionable of missions that would either ensure humanity's survival or leave them asking why they thought building an interstellar fleet from repurposed scrap metal was a good idea. Dr. Voss found herself working with an increasingly bizarre collection of scientists, engineers, and a handful of experts who seemed more concerned with gaining Twitter followers than saving the planet. There was something comical about watching people who had never left their office chairs now become experts on interstellar travel and alien civilizations. It was like a child suddenly claiming to be a chef after watching a few cooking shows. One day, a panel of politicians gathered to announce the creation of a new space task force. The lead, a man with far too much confidence and far too little experience, proclaimed with all the seriousness of someone who clearly didn't understand the stakes, "We are going to investigate this signal. We'll find out what's out there and we'll make sure we're ready." Elara raised an eyebrow. Ready? Ready for what? For the inevitable failure? "They've been preparing for months," another scientist quipped, shaking her head. "Preparing is great, but what exactly do they think they're preparing for?" A dance-off. As if by cosmic cue, the ruins of Kepler 16 billion began revealing their secrets. Ancient cities emerged from beneath the surface like forgotten monuments to a civilization that had long since passed into history. These ruins, however, were not peaceful relics of bygone eras. They were littered with signs of destruction, debris scattered with the echoes of a civilization that had met some kind of catastrophic end. Elara and her team couldn't ignore the connection. The ruins weren't merely remnants, they were warnings. The same force that had awakened the signal from the void had wiped out what came before. A dark force, one that could leave nothing but dust and silence in its wake. The signal had stopped being just a transmission, it was now a warning, and humanity had no idea if they could outrun what was coming. The deeper they dug into the ruins of Kepler 16 billion, the more Elara began to feel like a character in one of those old sci-fi movies where the hero always stumbles into the biggest mess imaginable. Ruins were everywhere, gigantic cities buried beneath the surface, towering structures etched into the rock, but nothing they found made sense. They were finding clues, but each answer led to more questions. What had happened here? And why was it so eerily quiet? Elara had always believed in logic, in patterns that made sense, but nothing about Kepler 16 billion was logical. The ruins were sprawling, ancient, and lifeless, yet the signs of what seemed to be violent collapse were unmistakable. Large, shattered monuments lay sprawled across the landscape, with structures that looked like they had been torn apart by forces far beyond what any natural disaster could produce. Something ended this civilization, Elara said, her voice echoing through the ancient ruins. But what? Her team scoured the remnants of the once great cities, uncovering traces of technology far more advanced than anything humanity had ever developed. They found intricate carvings, alien scripts, and bizarre machinery that didn't make sense. The symbols were familiar in structure but so alien in nature. It wasn't just a language barrier, these were patterns that hinted at something far beyond human comprehension. It's like they were trying to tell us something, Elara muttered, staring at a tablet-like object they had unearthed. The device crackled weakly, emitting faint pulses of energy, but there was no way to interpret what it was trying to convey. One of her colleagues, a perpetually optimistic engineer named Felix, chimed in. "Maybe it's A?" Message, he said, his tone dripping with unearned confidence, like a "Welcome to the universe, buy Earth t-shirts." Elara couldn't help but chuckle, though the sound felt hollow. Right, maybe they want us to visit their Amazon store. But there was something deeper at play. The more they uncovered, the more Elara felt the weight of something older, darker, looming in the background. These ruins weren't relics of a once thriving civilization, they were tombstones. And whatever had brought them down seemed to be far from finished. She thought back to the signal they had intercepted. We are here, but who was we? Was it the remnants of a dying species sending out a desperate call, or something entirely different? Something older? Her instincts were screaming at her, warning of an ancient presence, one that had lain dormant for millennia. The ruins were speaking, but the message was clearer than they realized. A chilling possibility dawned on her. What if they weren't just dealing with a long-lost civilization, but with something far older, something that had remained hidden, waiting? The more they dug, the more they uncovered signs of collapse, signs of death, but no answers. The ruins whispered of a past so ancient, so horrifyingly vast, that Elara couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had ended this civilization wasn't confined to Kepler 16 billion. It was still out there. And it wasn't done. The deeper they delved into the mysteries of Kepler 16 billion, the more the sense of unease settled over Elara. The ruins weren't just lifeless remnants, they were a haunting glimpse into something ancient and terrifying. The structures that once stood tall and proud were now twisted and broken, as if some colossal force had torn them apart like paper. Elara couldn't help but feel like they were poking at something that had been better left undisturbed. One afternoon, while her team examined a series of large, distorted towers, they stumbled upon what appeared to be a massive, sealed gateway. The gateway, made of black, obsidian-like material, radiated a strange, pulsing energy that felt almost alive. It didn't look like something natural, it looked like something ancient, something that had been waiting for millions of years. Felix, ever the hopeful optimist, scratched his head. So, this is like a space door, right? A portal to, I don't know, alien IKEA. Elara gave him a flat look. Or maybe a portal to get us closer to the thing that ended these ruins. They scanned the gateway, but nothing seemed to trigger a response. No buttons, no switches, no alien keyboards. Just a massive, foreboding wall of darkness that pulsed in eerie silence. "Any chance this is just a really bad PowerPoint presentation?" Felix asked, his voice tinged with nervous humor. "Because I feel like we've hit the cosmic equivalent of a loading screen." Elara ignored him, feeling the weight of the silence. She tapped her fingers on the cold, metallic surface of the gateway, searching for any sign of life, any clue to what lay beyond. Nothing. Just more of that oppressive stillness. Suddenly, a faint crackle echoed from deep within the gateway, as though something far beyond their comprehension was stirring. "It's waking up," Elara whispered, her stomach tightening. Felix straightened, his grin fading. "Waking up? Waking up from what? A nap? Elara shot him a glare. A nap. That lasted a million years. The crackling noise grew louder, more insistent. The black surface of the gateway shimmered, then rippled, as if something was trying to push through the barrier. It wasn't mechanical, it wasn't technological, it was something primal, something old. Elara felt a chill run down her spine. Whatever's behind this isn't just a relic of the past, she murmured. It's alive. The team stood frozen as the energy began to pulse faster, the gateway vibrating beneath their hands. There was no denying it anymore. Something was awakening from the void, something ancient, something far beyond their understanding. Elara, one of the researchers, said, his voice trembling. What if? What if it's the same thing that sent the signal? The thought hung in the air. The signal had been a cry from the depths of the universe, a call that someone or something was there. Had they been calling for something, or had they been calling to something? The answer seemed to hang just out of reach. Elara swallowed hard. We're not dealing with something lost in time, she said, gripping her scanner tighter. We're dealing with something that's been waiting. And now, it's coming for us. The gateway crackled again, louder this time as the black surface began to ripple. The silence was broken, but not in a way they could comprehend. The question wasn't whether they could stop what was coming, it was whether they could survive it. As the gateway continued to pulse with a dark, malevolent energy, Elara and her team found themselves standing at the edge of something far beyond their control. The silence of space had never felt so oppressive. They were no longer explorers, they were prey. Elara took a deep breath, her mind racing with questions that had no answers. What was coming through that gateway? Was it the force that had destroyed the civilization of Kepler 16 billion? Or something even older, something that had been lurking in the void, biding its time? The more she thought about it, the more the answers seemed irrelevant. The only certainty was that whatever was on the other side didn't have humanity's best interests at heart. Felix, now fully awake from his earlier levity, shifted uncomfortably beside her. So, any chance we can send it a message? Like, sorry to bother you, but can you maybe not eat us? His voice wavered, cracking under the weight of fear. Elara ignored him. A message isn't going to stop this thing, she said, her voice flat. We're way past diplomacy. But Felix wasn't giving up. You never know. Maybe it's just a giant, angry space thing that misunderstood our text. Like, sorry, wrong number. Elara shot him a look that could freeze ice. Felix, I think this is one conversation we shouldn't have through text. The gateway continued to ripple, the energy surging now like a living, breathing force. The air around them seemed to vibrate, as if the very fabric of space was trembling. Elara clenched her fists, realizing there was no retreat, no escape. Whatever was about to come through, they couldn't outrun it. All they could do was brace for impact. We're dealing with something ancient, something that shouldn't exist, she murmured, and we have no clue what it wants. Her team began to shift nervously, eyes darting to the gateway, then back to Elara. The silence grew heavier. The once calm scientists were now filled with doubt and fear. Elara could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on her, and it wasn't just fear, it was a gnawing sense of insignificance. They were mere specks in the vastness of the universe, and whatever was about to emerge from that gateway was something far beyond their comprehension. Any theories? Elara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. One of the engineers shook his head. It's not something we've ever encountered. Ancient. Powerful. Dangerous, he paused. But one thing's clear, it's not friendly. Elara clenched her jaw. We're going to need more than theories. Felix stepped forward again, his nervous energy returning. So if this thing is, I don't know, a cosmic monster, what's the plan? We run? Hide? Sacrifice Felix? No one's sacrificing anything, Elara snapped, her patience wearing thin. We don't have a plan. We don't have a clue what's on the other side. All we have is what's in front of us, and that's a doorway to something we've never seen before. A low rumble echoed through the air, vibrating the very ground beneath their feet. The gateway shimmered violently now, the pulsing energy becoming erratic and uncontrollable. It wasn't just waiting, it was awakening. Elara tightened her grip on her scanner, scanning the gateway one last time. The readings were off the charts beyond anything they had ever encountered. The energy was building, growing, feeding into something ancient, something monstrous. Felix swallowed hard. "You think we're ready?" Elara didn't respond. How could they be ready? They were staring into the abyss, and the abyss wasn't planning on staying hidden any longer. The gateway crackled one last time before releasing a surge of energy so powerful it felt like the very universe was trembling. Whatever was coming, there was no turning back now. The gateway erupted in a blinding burst of energy, tearing through the void like a cosmic explosion. The ground beneath Elara shook violently, sending her stumbling backward. The air itself seemed to convulse, as if reality itself was struggling to keep its footing. Elara clutched her scanner tighter, watching as the shimmering void warped and twisted. The gateway had become a portal, a gaping hole in space that pulsated with a dark, ominous light. Whatever was on the other side, it was waking up. Felix stood frozen beside her, eyes wide as saucers. "Okay, not great. Not great at all," he muttered, his voice barely audible. Elara barely heard him. Her gaze was fixed on the gateway, unable to look away from the swirling darkness beyond. The energy surged, building to an unbearable crescendo. Then, as if the universe itself had taken a deep breath, it happened. Out of the void emerged something. It wasn't immediately visible at first. Only the rippling shadows of its form became apparent. A massive, towering figure stepped through the gateway, silhouetted by the unnatural light. Its size alone was enough to dwarf entire cities, and while its shape was humanoid, it was far from human. "What is that?" Felix whispered, his voice trembling. Elara didn't answer. Her throat was dry, and the weight of dread crushed down on her like 1,000 tons of cosmic pressure. The figure continued to emerge slowly, methodically. Every step it took sent tremors through the ground. It didn't move like a creature of flesh, it moved like something ancient, something beyond biology. The silence was deafening. Even Felix, ever the chatterbox, had nothing to say. The figure reached out, its massive hand more like a weapon than anything human grasping the air. The energy around it crackled, bending space itself as if reality couldn't contain it. Elara had never been more certain of one thing: whatever this was, it wasn't here to make friends. The figure tilted its massive head, studying them as if they were insects beneath its gaze. Its dark, sunken eyes glowed faintly, a deep, malevolent light that radiated with unimaginable power. The ruins of Kepler 16 billion had been a warning, and now it seemed that warning was walking straight toward them. Dr. Voss, one of the team, stammered. Is it intelligent?" "Yeah," Elara said, her voice shaky. "It's really intelligent." Felix took a deep breath. "So diplomacy's out the window, right?" Elara didn't dignify his question with an answer. She wasn't sure if running would make a difference or if hiding could even slow down whatever force this was. The figure continued to approach, its every step creating a ripple of destruction. "Why didn't we just call dibs on a nice, quiet asteroid?" Felix muttered, his nervous energy making him fidgety. Elara shot him a glare, but her mind wasn't far from agreeing. They had stumbled into something far bigger than they could have ever anticipated. Humanity had made countless mistakes in space, but this felt like the last. The figure stopped mere meters from them, looming like a titan from a forgotten age. It wasn't just its size, it was the sheer weight of its presence that made them feel insignificant. Elara could feel the ground beneath her shaking, as though gravity itself was bending to accommodate this force. The silence stretched on, heavy with the weight of impending doom. Whatever this creature or whatever it was had come for, it wasn't here to communicate. "Felix," Elara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Run." Felix didn't need to be told twice. He bolted, and the rest of the team followed suit. They didn't look back. They didn't stop. The figure didn't pursue them, at least, not yet. Elara didn't dare glance behind her. The gateway stood open, pulsing with an unnatural energy. Whatever had emerged wasn't gone, it was watching. Waiting. And humanity had just opened the door to something far worse than extinction. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Sci-Fi Horizon Stories for more thrilling tales of science fiction and adventure. The mysteries of the cosmos are vast, and who knows what awaits us in the darkness of space. Stay curious, stay tuned, and may the stars guide your journey.